Hello, everybody. We are here back in San Diego to talk some ComicCon 2022. This will kind of follow the format we used last week with the live podcast recording down here. It'll eventually end up as audio as well on our podcast feed there. It can be found anywhere Parks and Cons can be found there. We are recording right now in San Diego, right next to the Bayfront. We're just a few feet away, actually, from Sweet Things SD, Sweet Things San Diego, with all their great drinks that they make there. They'll actually be on the SDCC Unofficial Blogs live show tonight at 6:30. So if you are interested in some more Comic-Con talk, that would be a great place to check out as well. But what we're going to do is keep the format of last week. Is we're going to talk about some of the things that we found today, some things that were kind of new to us or just kind of interesting talking points. Then we'll talk a little bit about some things that are upcoming, and then we will get to kind of looking at those tips and how that all kind of fits together. So that format worked really well last time, and I think we're going to keep it again this time. So before we get too deep into this time, you had brought up, which is a good point, we're sitting right here next to the new restaurant at the Hilton Bayfront, Hudson and Nash, and we ate there right after we recorded last time. And so we did this live show, and we got done, and we're like, do we drive out of here? Do we go eat in Old Town? And you were like, well, let's try the new spot. And so we went there, and it was some really tasty food, a beautiful location, very pricey, but with some good stuff all the way around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was the menu was kind of different. When I looked online ahead of time, I guess I had looked at their lunch menu, and so it was burgers, sandwiches, and stuff, and so pretty standard things. And then when we got there, it was their dinner menu, and everything was a little I don't know, maybe fancier than I was expecting it to be, and so everything was a little just.
Well, they have things
a little like nicer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice restaurant. I don't know if they'll use a more a different type of menu for Comic-Con, because Vela was in the same location, and they would use a more superhero-y, for lack of a better term, menu, where it would be like the Superman burger or whatever.
And more condensed,
yeah.
And so I think that probably helps the cooks to get things out quicker. And so, but yeah, it tasted very good. So what we ended up getting was I think 2 burgers.
Yeah, so what we ordered was the Hudson and Nash burger. So that was on the lunch menu, but they took pity on us and allowed us to eat it for dinner, because as we were looking at the dinner menu, and there was things like the tomahawk prime ribeye for $150, and the pork bao bun, which was supposed to serve 2 people, but $55, big eye tuna $36, New York strip steak $58. All sounded fantastic, but we weren't really in the mood to do like $200 dinner.
Really what ended up after we ordered and I looked closer at the menu, there was like a pasta that actually sounded really good, but the type of pasta I wasn't familiar with, so I had to look that up. And then I don't remember what the sauce was exactly, but it actually sounded like really good, kind of spaghetti type pasta, but because the words they used and the different ingredients they used were all kind of different than I was used to, I literally had to like look up what a lot of the words were to figure out. I'm like, oh wait, that would have totally worked and stuff. So and then it actually sounded really good, and so yeah, it's definitely a place I think we would like to go to, but it'll kind of depend on the budget. And I'd imagine during Comic-Con we'll probably have at least one meal there at some point. But yeah, it was very tasty, very good, and obviously having the view of the ocean and stuff was really cool and very beautiful. They had I don't remember if it was the same way with Bella. I don't think it was, but like the one side that faces the water, like truly just kind of opens up entirely. And so there was like the fresh sea air and stuff, and a nice breeze. And so it was a really beautiful spot to eat at. So yeah, I imagine we'll eat there from time to time. Just we won't be able to afford it to be like an every time we're down here sort of thing.
And the SDCC unofficial blog has pictures. They have a post up on the website there that has photos of all that, so you can see kind of the layout and all of those things. And then we included it in the guide, which we'll talk about, the video that we put out this week of kind of talking about some of the changes in food, and kind of the first in a series of videos that kind of touch on that topic. And you put some of the menu on there as well, so you can check that video out too. And we'll come back to that towards as we near the end of the show. But anyway, we did want to talk about that, even though that wasn't today. That was kind of a fun change to, something we were tracking since throughout the pandemic. When Vela closed, we were kind of monitoring that area and wondering, someday when Comic-Con returns, what will return here. And finally, it opened just a few weeks ago, so it is back at the Hilton Bayfront for you to check out during Comic-Con season if you're interested. In terms of today, though, our first stop, as is often the times, is the Now or Never comic shop. quite a bit. Again, it's kind of been more of a pandemic. I think they've only had really one Comic-Con season where the store was open down here. And it's a few blocks back. It's a little bit past Petco over there. It's definitely walking distance, and I've walked over there during, Comic-Con times or during the virtual times also when we were out here. That was kind of our Comic-Con, was visiting there. But we stopped there, picked up some books. We'll talk about them again towards some of our tips too, because we included in that. The big kind of goal of the day was adding to those videos that we're doing of kind of the updates on food down here. And so, as I said, there was the guide that we did, and Carmel put some extra efforts into kind of putting addresses and a a menu off to the side, so you can kind of see some of those options at some of the spots. That's also up on the Unofficial Blogs website and our YouTube channel. There you can find them. And then today was kind of the next in those types of videos is we went to Seaport Village. There were several that have reached out about Seaport Village and what things are going on over there. And full disclosure, Seaport Village has never been a big part of our Comic-Con experience. We're normally more on the Bayfront side of the convention center, but we've gone down there and had good meals and all of that. And so we went down there to do we did it live today, but it's already, obviously up on the YouTube channel that you can watch it anytime. Found that a lot of Seaport Village is gone. And then there's a chunk of it, several restaurants that are saying that they are coming soon. Some of them look like they'll be open in time for Comic-Con, some of them do not, so you can check that video out to see all of those things. But we did find a great spot over there in one of the places that was open in the San Diego Burger Company. It was one of the spots we went by during the video. And as I was kind of showing the menu to people on camera, I'm like, $7.95 for a hamburger. And the hamburgers look great, and they have meatless options, they have hot dogs, they had all sorts of things. So we decided to loop back over there as soon as we finished the live and got some really good food. We got a burger, we tried burger, grilled cheese, the onion rings and the French fries, and they were too big to we ended up kind of tossing a bunch of the fries and some of the onion rings and stuff like that, but they were really tasty, very affordable price. Not quite as good a deal as maybe Lolita's is, and we both go there and spend $22, but we both went there and this was like $32 after leaving them a tip on top of it. And it is a counter service. You can pick up food there. We'll post some pictures on social as well if you don't want to watch on YouTube. But I thought it was a good stop there for people that are kind of in the Seaport Village area, and there's a bunch of good spots over in that whole food court kind of area they have.
Yeah, I'm surprised by how many restaurants they have in that one building, kind of all attached. But the Mexican food, the Asian food, I'm not sure specifically. It was, but they had noodles and stuff, and you could create your own thing. And then there was pizza and this other location, and literally every single location had something that I would have been interested in trying. So yeah, I imagine. Now, I think maybe I personally, I'm not sure about you, but I don't think I've really made it all the way down there. I think I got distracted by the carousel or something, and then turned around and didn't realize that there was all those specific individual places and stuff. And so, yeah, that was a really nice stop and pretty affordable. And yeah, like I said, every one of those places had stuff that I thought, ooh, that sounds good. That sounds good. So yeah, I'd imagine we'll probably fit that in more of our rotation of locations and stuff that we eat at when we come down here.
I think so, for sure. It was a really good spot, and it was much more affordable than I thought it would be, to be honest. And so yeah, Seaport Village, about, I'd say about a third of it's kind of closed when it comes to the food side of things. A third of it is coming soon, and a third of it's there. So you can go check out that video if you're interested in kind of which parts, if that's part of your Comic-Con experience. We did finally get to see in person the Abbott Elementary wraps. We saw MTS advertise that the wraps are coming, and that there's 40 of them that are going to be happening this year. And so we were hoping that we would actually see one in real life. And we did the walk from kind of the Seaport Village area, but on the harbor over there, and walked along the tracks.
The MLK Park side.
Yeah, and we were kind of watching, and there's a lot of Padres wraps and other casinos and things that we've been seeing. I mean, for us, we've been coming down here now for a little less than 3 years. Obviously, Comic-Con, 27 months ago, we started kind of coming down here periodically, and during the closure and the reopening, we came down here even as kind of a place that was really good to just walk around as everything was closed, just walk by the water and stuff and get a little bit of that Comic-Con vibe. But it's been a long time since we've seen a Comic-Con wrap. So that felt really, really good to actually see the, to see the wrap and it be a Comic-Con thing and it go whizzing by there. And then later on, we saw it a second time. The backdrop was the Bayfront and the San Diego Convention Center. And I don't think I posted that video yet, but it's just a quick little video of a more close-up of the Abbott Elementary stuff. But it was just a good feeling of I'm looking at a Comic-Con wrap on on the MTS with the backdrop of the Bayfront and the Convention Center, which for a lot of us is synonymous with Comic-Con. So I saw the question in the chat from Night Bodega about the carpet or the rug inside. I mean, the hallway carpet is there. I think the thing that's the carpeting that happens for the conventions is paid for separately. So that is the thing that a lot of conventions these days, including Star Wars Celebration a few weeks ago, chose not to pay for this year, and it seems to point that that's going to be the case at Comic-Con as well. But the the carpet in front of the escalators is there, but the carpet that really matters that you're walking on all day as you're hitting the floor like we do, that's the carpet that is kind of optional for conventions, and it's a big money item. And so no, we've not been though inside the convention center. We just peer in through the windows as we walk by.
Yeah. So yeah, the usual carpet out in the lobby is there, but we won't be seeing the carpet on the floor. So unfortunately, we won't. So, and we talked about that quite a bit, I think, on the last live week ago.
Just the wear and tear.
Yeah. So it'll be a lot of wear and tear on our feet and our legs, on our whole bodies, but it is what it is. At least we'll have a show that we can hang out and we'll probably fit in even more breaks than we normally do to try to address the fatigue of walking on cement or concrete or whatever that's called.
Yeah, and that said, tying into that question right there and tying into the, the Abbott Elementary stuff it is more than not is looking like the old days, if I want to put it that way, meaning lots of good stuff in terms of it looks like there's going to be some really good offsites. It looks like there's going to be really good vendors on the floor. I mean, today Funko, with Loungefly and all of that kind of dominated the news cycle, and it really felt like a Comic-Con day of news, and they were pumping it all out there. And every couple minutes we'd see the blog post something that was new, of whether it was a Loungefly purse and Symbiote put their stuff out, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, okay, now we're getting into that season where it's coming. We did have, in which we are not going to go into any spoilers about or whatever, but definitely had confirmed today that a really cool offsite is coming from a company that people are familiar with, from a property that people are familiar with, but we were sworn to secrecy and we don't break those secrets. But it was one of those things of people are going to be really happy when they hear about this. That's awesome. And that was kind of a fun part of the trip down here, is getting that kind of confirmation and stuff. I know in the UTT that the blog put up earlier today, they had under the tents that the unofficial blog does, they had a great thing in there from an offsite potentially coming that they were able to put together. And so if you didn't check that out, because I missed it as we were out here, and then they had tweeted again hey, if you didn't read, you might have missed a cool offsite thing. And I went and I read it to you, and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool, and this sounds like something that's pretty awesome. So make sure to check out the things that they're posting there as well too. And again, a month from now, we're going to know 90% of these types of things. Maybe not quite 90, I guess, a month from now, but every day a little bit more kind of trickles out. And I do think that we're going to find that there's a lot more normal about this Comic-Con than abnormal. That said, there'll be changes, and we'll see how they all come as they go. But I felt like it's been a good couple weeks even of information that's kind of slowly trickling out, and clues that are coming together, advertised job listings that are out there trying to find people, other sorts of confirmations and stuff. So definitely some good stuff. And to me, seeing the Abbott Elementary, I mean, it was tweeted earlier in the week and there's a post about it and all that, but seeing it with my own eyes, it just made it this feels like this is what we come out here for, is trying to find these types of things and feel like you're back in that Comic-Con mode. In the chat, the unofficial blog is there, and half the fun is piecing together the puzzle that is SDCC, and 100% agree. And it's one of the things for another side of our cover, but when we do the haunt season, that's a big thing, is it's like you're seeing them build these different mazes at these parks, and it's like, wait, is that going to be this or this? And it is some of the most fun. I would say some of my highlights of Comic-Con are the Monday, Tuesday, and leading into preview night Wednesday of trying to piece together the puzzle of things as they're being most built quickest. And I think all of you coming out to Comic-Con this year are going to see a lot of fun things and be able to help piece the puzzle together as well. So a lot of optimism in that way.
Definitely, and I know you did a lot of walking in those couple days, like an insane amount of steps that you get in like that Monday and Tuesday and stuff. So we'll definitely be out here covering as much as we can and piecing together that puzzle. Now, there was a question about e-scooter parking near the convention center.
Yes.
And so that was actually kind of interesting. We noticed it last week when we were here that we weren't seeing a lot of e-scooters, and so we were kind of like curious, and you did some research into it to figure out
There's been some changes in San Diego. Yeah, I mean, usually we're used to, as we're making the walk around, we're looking for the, diving out of the way of these the scooters kind of flying around, or bicycles or whatever. And we noticed, like, right now as we're recording here, like in 2019, we would have seen like 20 different scooters parked just everywhere here. And now there's none. And so it seems that they have really cracked down in San Diego on a lot of those. There's less companies, I believe, like Bird was eliminated and they're appealing. But if you Google San Diego and the scooters, you'll find several articles on the kind of crackdown of them and like what's allowed and not allowed. But I guess there was a lot of accidents and a lot of concern. So we are seeing, like we have walked all of the behind the convention center, all the way past Seaport Village, all of the gas lamp front, like the 5th Street area, and not once today have we had a scooter whipped by us. So they do have allotted stalls that we've seen, and we've seen them parked there. And obviously there's going to be more activity as we come to like the Comic-Con time of year and all of that, like the actual season. But it seems that there's been a lot of changes there.
Yeah, and as far as, so one of the, I think the changes is that they need to be parked in very specific locations, marked off locations, otherwise the companies get fined or something like that. And I've not seen any of those specific parking locations near the convention center. So in answer to your question, no, we've not seen many e-scooter parkings around the convention center. I'm guessing they just don't want them near where people are walking that much. And so yeah, that's definitely different. So that's been one of your modes of transportation. You may want to look into that and see if that's going to be viable for this year or not for you. But from what we've seen, it's not all that common. Now, another question that popped up had to do with
the bathrooms.
Yeah, the hotels.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So. Yeah, great question. So we had posted something on Twitter about that, but just we have found definitely in the last year or two here, as things reopened, the bathrooms became at most of the hotels that we would go to, like for example, the back of the Bayfront. A lot of times we'd go in and maybe get a drink at the little grab and go or the souvenir shop there and use the restroom and then continue our walk. And all of a sudden, bathrooms started to be locked in various places, the Hard Rock, etc., Hilton Gas Lamp. I think Hilton Gas Lamp was actually the first we noticed that you needed to have a key to enter. Went to the Marriott today, the bathrooms were locked, you needed a key. One of the ones, the door was propped open, so I ended up using that restroom, but we found that more and more. And so I don't know, which hotels, and I would imagine during Comic-Con a lot more will be opened up and be more accessible, because I think that as we get to that season, like I don't think, for example, anywhere in the Bayfront is going to be a problem to access when they're having panels in Indigo and things like that. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. But for those of you that are going to be out maybe the Monday or the Tuesday or even the Wednesday, you might find a little bit more difficulty finding restrooms and being forced to, buy a drink at Tin Fish or something like that to use a restroom. We've definitely seen it really everywhere we go. For me, I mean, if you ever, like, I'm not going to get on a soapbox about it here, but bathrooms are like one of my like big soapbox. I remember being in Europe like 15 years ago and being like, man, their bathrooms are so much more accessible here. In America, it's always like you got to jump through all these hoops to use a bathroom. And I spent many years cleaning bathrooms as part of my job when I worked at In-N-Out, and I was like, it was never that terrible that I felt like we needed to like make it a huge challenge for people to get into them. But that is the case down here right now. So again, I don't think it'll be probably a problem at most places during Comic-Con itself. I would imagine the city's going to be fully embracing everybody coming in, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Monday, Tuesday, particularly a lot more lockdown things where you have a little bit more trouble accessing them. And then I think the last thing on our rundown before we get into the tips part is that there has been a big, and we've gotten questions about this, but there's been a big push in the last really week, especially. There's been more articles about this, or I guess the city council made some decisions about outdoor dining in San Diego. And so if you've not been down to San Diego recently, or you're not familiar with how things have kind of played out since the reopening with the pandemic, is a lot of places in the Gaslamp particularly extended their dining into the street, and the street would be closed down. Sometimes it would just be totally closed down for days at a time, and sometimes just weekends, and sometimes certain hours of the day. But they created, and I mean, some of these are really nice. We posted some pictures today where like they put in lighting and roofing, and I mean, these are like professionally made booths. These aren't just tables thrown out on the street or anything like that. And so this policy was called Spaces as Places in San Diego. And recently it was just announced that there are going to be a lot lot of changes to that by July 13th. So basically by July 13th, and so at this point, only 4% of the 500 restaurants that are using spaces as places have asked for a permit to make it a part of their, going forward plan. If they don't get a permit, then by July 13th, they need to remove them. So a lot of that extra seating that's allowed right now, like as we would go to the gas lamp tonight, will be gone. Now, the catch here is if they want to do it, because I think my first thought was like, well, why wouldn't everybody want it? If you just need to get a piece of paperwork turned in, why wouldn't you want it? Well, here are some of the catches here. So if you want the permit to keep the spaces outdoor, it's $10 to $30 additional per square feet, plus inspection fees, depending on where the restaurant is located. And there's no identification of how much money that costs a restaurant. They also have to be ADA compliant. The big thing also is that they cannot have roofing or electrical wiring in them. So a lot of them are for nighttime dining for restaurants. And so I don't know if they'd be allowed to like bring a generator out and string lights that way. They need to have openings every 10 feet to be accessible. So they can't just be like a 20-foot, thing with one entrance on one side. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through. So if you do come on down to the San Diego area, then you probably know already what we're talking about. If not, you can see I posted some pictures online, and I posted a link to the article as well. But I think that's going to be an interesting twist to see as we come to July 13th, which restaurants choose to go forward with that permit and have the additional seating outside and which do not have it. It's unfortunate that there's going to be a lot of seating loss right before Comic-Con when seating is most needed. I don't know if those restaurants have the capacity in terms of their labor anyway, though. Maybe they don't have enough employees to do it, but I do know a lot of people still are more comfortable eating outdoors. San Diego normally has pretty nice weather where eating outside is fine too. So I was telling you, I was like, I wish they would have just made them like make this decision like August or something. Like let them just have Comic-Con and do that. But it is what it is, and you can look more into it in the article that we tweeted earlier today if you want, or I'm sure you can just Google it as well. But that is what that is all about, and that may change the scope of dining in the gas lamp before we get to Comic-Con's opening night, a preview night. Oh, and just a last little thing, the Tin Fish has no wraps on their tables anymore, which those disappeared a little while ago, but they had those NBC ones through much of the pandemic. Last year during Comic-Con at home, as we kind of were down here taking pictures of a handful of cosplayers.
The
here.
2019 ones.
2019 ones were still there, yeah. And so it always felt a little bit like Comic-Con, and it's like, and now those are gone as well, which hopefully means that new wraps are coming to them soon with some sort of activation. Who knows what, but that. Okay, previewing, looking ahead, we did have a winner for our swag bag giveaway today. We have a new giveaway coming up very soon here. We will be doing the prize drops again. Some people asked, I think it was a comment on YouTube asking if we would have a Facebook trading group again. That Facebook group always exists. We run a Facebook group. It's called San Diego Comic-Con SDCC attendees. You can find it. There are a few security questions you have to answer just because we try to eliminate bots as much as possible, but you can go over there. There will be, I'm sure, a lot of trading. Please read over the rules and just be nice. It's not a group for profiting. There's no financial parts of it. We just want to have a place where people can trade, whether it's the W bags, information. Ironically, we post almost nothing of our own work there. We were talking about that today. We need to post, because I saw yesterday somebody was very kind to post our videos in there, and they're like, these videos are great. And I'm like, oh yeah, then we should post our own videos there. But the Facebook group is there and it returns. We also will help, facilitate some trades and things like that on Twitter as we're able to, and as we get a little bit closer to that and do all of that as well. We'll be doing a video on new bus locations. We had not thought about that, but that is an intro. We'll add that to our list of things. There's been a few different new videos, and Seaport Village was a new video today that we've been making note of, because we're like, well, this is different than, and we still want to do the old videos as well, which are on our agenda, but we're trying to add in some new ones. So we'll add that to the list of things that we're trying to see what we can have time for. So thank you for that recommendation there. All right, some of the tips that we had this week. So one of the ones that was this week was about Now or Never Comics. We wanted to plug them and just say, particularly on the Monday and Tuesday of Comic-Con, but at any point of Comic-Con, or if you don't have a ticket and you're just coming down for offsites, it is such a great shop to step into. And particularly if you are maybe, I know some people are a little more intimidated by the comic shop scene sometimes, and I know we've both been to comic shops like that, where you go in and it is like the stereotype of the comic book guy from, Simpsons or something like that. And this shop is like the furthest thing from it. It's the most fun, inclusive, awesome store, super clean, super nice, well stocked, good prices, lots of back issues, lots of trades, new stuff, $1 books, $2 books,
Upstairs are the toys and
Toys,
stuff.
yeah, they encourage you to take photos and go ahead and post them on social media. Free comics for children, lots of cool stuff there. So we included them as a recommendation this week. And definitely, if you're down and able to stop by the shop, head over there and, you know, give them some support if you can, because they had a tough run through the pandemic of the closures and stuff. And one of the things I really appreciate about Now or Never is they were one of the people that I really followed closely on social media when everything in California was shut down, because he would be going to the shop and just like working on the shop, adding shelving or lighting or just cleaning, and he would like post pictures, and it just felt good knowing there was progress. So I feel a real strong like attachment or gratitude to the store for doing things that when everything was locked down, just him sharing a little bit of his work behind the scenes kind of felt good to know, like, hey, they're going to return someday and we'll be there. And so it's nice to see the store prospering so much now. So that was one of the tips from this week. The other couple tips, one was, or a focus this week was on the floor, and we'll have a lot of stuff on the floor, particularly once the exhibit vendor map drops. We will have a lot of tips related to that as well. But we'll keep having those different tips for that. But on the floor, a couple things. One, we stressed this week, and this got a lot of people talking and a lot of people tagging us in conversations that I wish we weren't tagged in. But a lot of people talking about prepping for mentally the floor that is Comic-Con, because you and I have been in floors. We're at, you know, Monster Palooza or even Animanga last August, where it is like skin to skin, and people think that's only a San Diego Comic-Con thing, and it's not. It's a convention thing at a lot of conventions we cover. But you and I have had, you know, a long time getting used to that. But the first time you're in that situation, it can be a little jarring. And I do know I've seen a lot of people saying like Comic-Con is kind of their return to big events, and that can be a scary thing. So you know, just I think it's easy to say kind of, you know, be ready for it, but I think like looking at videos of Comic-Con would be a thing I would do if you're in that boat. Remembering what it is. I know a lot of people are saying, well, Comic-Con won't be as crowded this year, people will be wearing masks. All of those things, I think it's just easiest though in your own mind to go into it thinking it's Comic-Con 2019. That way you're not in a situation where you're having a meltdown. So I know we've had friends, family, etc., that have kind of had meltdowns at various, you know, whether it's theme parks or conventions or even a Target, where they just all of a sudden are like, wow, I haven't been in a crowded setting in 20 months, or at this point it's going to be 28 months by the time Comic-Con opens up. And it's real jarring to go from no big crowds to the madness that is Comic-Con in the gas lamp and the main floor.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be challenging. I mean, even pre-pandemic, I used to talk about how every year going onto that Comic-Con floor, that I kind of have to flip a mental switch in my head and just know that it's going to be very crowded, and there will be times that where I'm stuck in an aisle and I can't move, but I need to like remind myself that I'm okay, that we're going to keep moving at some point, and those types of things. And that was pre-pandemic. So I don't think I'm alone in that sentiment of being a little overwhelmed by the Comic-Con crowds just in a normal year. And so this year, I mean, we've had a lot of practice. If you follow along with us, you know that we have been going to conventions as soon as we were able to and stuff. And so yeah, I'll have to still flip that mental switch again, just because it's Comic-Con in general. But yeah, it's going to. We just really need to prepare ourselves and know that you probably will be in a flesh-to-flesh situation, because we've already been in those at other shows and at smaller shows, and this is still San Diego Comic-Con, and you know, it would be nice if there was some more room and if we had more space and that type of thing just in any year, but I just can't imagine expecting that at all this year. And so everyone's had, you know, different experiences and stuff, and we just need to deal with what the situation is. And the situation is that there's going to be a lot of people in that building right over there.
And right here, like there's no way we'll be able to sit right here. I mean, that's one of the things that's challenging with a lot of the cons is like, how far do you have to go away from the epicenter to be able to just like sit somewhere, you know, and that's part of that. And I know Anime Expo still is the most crowded of the cons that we cover, and I've never seen crowds the way the Artist Alley is at Anime Expo. And as you've noted before, like it's tough to walk down the row.
Well, I literally go down a row, with scratches on my arms and stuff. And again, that was pre-pandemics, but I don't expect that to be any different this year when we're there in like less than a month.
You can't even take one step without a person. Like you just shuffle collectively down the road. So yeah, I mean, those things just, we just want to make sure, we just hope that a lot of people are able to be ready for whatever the con offers and, are able to enjoy it. Obviously, it's so hard to get here. A lot of people are paying for hotel rooms. And I know in the chat, people talk about how expensive parking is, which we feel that big time as well. And yeah, the flights and all that. And so you hate to get here and then be overwhelmed by the crowds and not be able to enjoy it after all those sacrifices and stuff. Another tip regarding the floor, and this is just a more traditional one, but keeping track of the rows that you do. I mean, I know not everybody has the same goal as you and I to go down every single row at a con, but it is nice to kind of note somewhere in your phone. We use the phone a lot to note what rows we've been down. We also note in advance certain exclusives or just swag or things or booths we want to check out, where the artists are, so that in our phone it's easy to access and say, oh, on 1801 is where that one booth is that I wanted to check out. And also then to keep a list, because I always am big on like keep that list of things that you want to maybe loop back for, because your budget may not be able to handle it on Thursday. I know a lot of times there's something I'll want early in the con, but I'll be like, dang, but if we spend the money on it now, I don't know if we're going to regret it later, and I'd like to have money on the final day and stuff. And then we loop back to it Sunday and maybe there's a discount, or maybe it's sold out too. I know I make that recommendation every year, and a lot of times vendors quickly jump in and they say, yeah, but if you wait, it could be sold out too. So of course, but idea of keeping notes can help.
Yeah, definitely. And I think generally our rule is if there's something you have to have, buy it immediately. And if there's something you might want to get or kind of want, definitely note it. Now there's a lot of conversation about parking and like the gas lamp being $55. Now just kind of a tip, I guess, in regards to parking. If you're okay with walking a bit, I mean, and if you're able to get parking in the lottery and stuff, try. When we've stayed at the gas lamp, not during Comic-Con because we can't afford that, but when we stayed there for other times, we'll park over at 6 and Parkade, the Ace parking across the street from the Omni, and so we'll like stop, drop off all our stuff at the hotel, and then we'll go to and park over there, and it's a lot more affordable than parking at the gas lamp. But obviously during Comic-Con it's a whole different thing with the lottery and stuff, so but it still might be worth a try if you don't mind the walk, and if you want to save some of your money that way, consider parking at the other locations and taking the walk to the hotel. Just a little thing that we've done in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Another tip this week, and it's the simple one, but I want to go like a layer deeper on it because it was included, but it's just the whole be nice, it's a simple one, but I know like we're really quick just in general to block people like on all platforms, because I'm always like, well, this is all just a hobby for us and it's supposed to be fun and we're like helping out people out. So like the slightest negativity is just like a quick block or whatever. But in general, just on the floor and stuff, being nice just takes you so far. There's so many times that we've been given things like priority access or swag or whatever, just from like asking nicely and stuff. But the deeper layer to that is just that it's really important to remember that everybody working in normal times at Comic-Con is new to their job for the most part. Like Comic-Con only exists for a couple days and then everybody goes back. So everybody's basically working at a position that they're not very comfortable with. And so I'm sure we've all had jobs where we've been asked to kind of cover or fill in doing something that we're not super comfortable with. Well, that's mostly Comic-Con for everybody working there. So it helps to really remember about being nice to people, because everybody there is just kind of trying to get by and make the most of this thing that they're doing for 3, 4, 5 days or whatever it might be. And reaching out, asking questions, being kind can go a long way, because, most people when they're working out of position, they just kind of want to get through the day and not mess up and not get yelled at and all of those. So I think it's tough to remember sometimes as things are going on and somebody cuts in line for an exclusive or cut in line for Hall H or whatever it might be, and this person's not doing their job or whatever. But, obviously in a perfect world, all these things don't happen that are negative, but a lot of times they do happen. And whether it's conventions or other type of temporary exhibits that you and I cover, a lot of things can happen like that. And so it's just important to remember that. And I think this year it's going to be a lot more so in terms of the temporary nature of things, because a lot of these places just aren't staffed. I mean, the convention center doesn't have conventions the size of Comic-Con at any other point during the year. They have the big convention that they've kind of had right now is like 13,000 people, and that's a big difference than the 135,000 Comic-Con. So they're hiring up, all the hotels are hiring up, but there's still a lot of places where we find restaurants closing early. We went by a few like fast food spots like in other parts of California just in the last few days that were like closing early, or their dining room was closed, and etc. So the labor shortage, I said today on one of the video things we did, or I guess it was the Seaport Village one, just the combination of the construction that's going on down here, the shortages of employees, the closures during the pandemic, those are all going to throw some things for a loop. And so there's going to be some bumpy roads, I think, within Comic-Con. So trying to be patient, we always talk about that, and just being nice to as many people as you can, I think, will help a lot.
Yeah, and just kind of in regards to all that, it has seemed in like our own personal experiences, whether it's at the theme parks or it's at conventions, that people in general, like not just the employees, but people in general seem to be a lot more stressed and tense.
Very tense.
And so we've seen a lot of situations, like since the reopening, where people are getting angrier quicker and are getting frustrated quicker and are getting just mean quicker. And so, and particularly, in the past, I've always kind of marveled at how nice in general people are at Comic-Con, and obviously there's exceptions, but in general it's like you have over 100,000 people in a fairly small footprint, and usually people on the floor are like nice and like apologize if they bump into you, or like help you if you're struggling with something, and that's of course still happens, but it's not so much the norm in the world right now. And so yeah, if we can all work on being nice. I think someone saw something about being nice being a boomerang situation, and yeah, definitely. So like, I know for myself, I need to again put myself in the right mental space to understand that we don't understand what other people are going through, and so when people are angry, we don't know what their situation is. So trying to be nice and trying to be patient, and I struggle with that. So again, it's something that I need to like always consciously remind myself, just be patient. But yeah, it seems, I would not be surprised if people are getting angrier quicker this time, just because that's what we keep seeing. So yeah, trying to be nice in return, and hopefully helping someone else feel a little better, and then they can be a little nicer to someone else. It's going to be a task for us all to, I think, would be good for us all to undertake as a plan of action for how to handle the situations.
Yeah, and the higher the stakes something is, and the less the resources, which is a lot of what we're going to have, I think, here is for a lot of people, it's always a big deal. Comic-Con's always a huge deal to the people attending Comic-Con, but I think this year it's even a bigger deal, because I think a lot of us feel like, we've been working towards this for almost 3 years now, so it's always like a big deal, like getting to it that 1 year, but now with 3 years in between, and all of the challenges people have had with family, financial, etc. during the pandemic, and now getting to it, and then you add in that maybe there is going to be it's going to be tougher to find food and drink, and a place to sit and rest, etc. Those can be difficult combinations, but
and hopefully all these things we're like talking kind of worst case scenario, hopefully, and hopefully things, yeah, it's kind of a whole thing of tempering our expectations. So hopefully what we're discussing, it's not, there aren't issues, and there's things are plenty staffed and things are open, but I think if we're all prepared for kind of a bad situation, we'll be pleasantly surprised when it's not that. Yeah. Hopefully it won't be that.
100%. The next one was the idea of just advocate. I mean, we're always big on trying to make sure to really, because I know that's something I think everybody struggles with when they're new to Comic-Con, is appreciating the entire convention experience and trying to really savor it, because it's over so fast. It feels so big and ominous as you go into the weekend, and then before you know it, it's over and we're back at work and we're thinking of the next Comic-Con and stuff. So we're always big on like, try to take breaks, eat, drink, sleep, etc. Don't run yourself down so much on Thursday and Friday that you can't enjoy Saturday and Sunday, because we've known people that are kind of dreading life by Saturday, Sunday of the con. So we're always big on pacing yourself. But this year also just adding in the idea of like, I think this is a year to really savor the planning process, is getting ready for Comic-Con. Although it can be intimidating, it can be a hassle, it's a lot of news. I mean, obviously resources like the unofficial blog, there's nothing, really like that aggregates all the information in anything else we cover, not in Disney or Universal or anything, that really gets all the bits and pieces of it. So going to that site and using, I know it's something that I do during the con when we're down here, before the con, etc. But trying to really enjoy it. I know this year I'm really trying to think like I don't really need. I mean, I always love hunting exclusives and swag and stuff, and I want to do those things. But like, I feel like I'm just going to be happy to be on the floor with or without carpet. I'm going to be happy to be on the floor with or without exclusive swag, etc. But I also want to make sure that it can go by so fast. So really trying to kind of savor the moments and enjoy this planning process too, because right now it's exciting because we have it in front of us, and at some point you're in it and it's amazing and it's a whirlwind when you're inside the hurricane, and then all of a sudden it's gone and it's over. And I know if you're like me, that Monday after Comic-Con is brutal. It is so emotionally painful to be like, oh, that was so fun, and now I've got to wait another year or whatever it is to go ahead and get to that next one.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I did see someone in the chat mention something about how they're already packing and they have their luggage out, setting stuff aside, and that's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Because you'll be better prepared and can start putting stuff aside and stuff. And I know you've been already for like a while now collecting the giveaways and stuff that will be given for drops and stuff.
A lot of I have the old school huge WB bags full of stuff to give away while we're down here. So obviously we'll have to find the time to give them away, and all of you people will need to follow along with us on Twitter to watch them and pick up the prizes and all of those things. But yeah, I've already got those prizes. I've got the next couple bag giveaways to do via social media for people that are going to try to win before. So to me it's just kind of fun putting those things together and kind of getting that as part of the planning process too. So okay, so we have one more tip there, but before we get to that, are there any questions in the chat before we get to the last of our tips here?
Or while we discuss the tip, you can throw up your questions if you have anything, or also any suggestions or things that you want us to cover in the future or take a look at, like the shuttle location video thing. That's something that we'll consider. But yeah, if there's anything that you want us to cover, you can email us, comments at Parks and Cons, or put in the chat or whatever. But otherwise, yeah.
Night Bodega just gave a good tip. He just talked about like loving the Sunday deals and people like dumping the stuff on. And I agree. Like there was the year the Halloween Michael Myers poster was like 11 by 17 or something like that Bill Sienkiewicz's booth was giving away, and it was really a difficult one to get during the con. And you could eventually get it if you gave them your email and all that. But then Sunday at close, I went right over to that booth as they were closing, and I was watching, and they had this thick stack of these things that people were selling for like $30 each on eBay and stuff, and they just were like, take them. And they gave me like 20 or 30 of them, and we've given them away, we've given them to people, we got some signed, etc. So Sunday, you never know what's going to pop up there, so that's a good tip to keep an eye out for.
And so one of the questions is, do you think downtown Gaslamp will still be integrated into the convention culture like previous years? And yes.
Yes, 100%. I'll be very surprised if it's not. I mean, one thing to note is just the children's park, which is over down by like where Nerd HQ was, where Teen Titans Go had the balloons in the water that one year. Cartoon Network's been kind of over there. I think Fox had the big Ferris wheel the other, maybe that was 2019 or 2018. That area is a park, and it's all under construction to become a much nicer children's park. So that will be eliminated. But outside of that, everything that we hear, everything that we see, the downtown should all be part of that SDCC campus once again. And I think there'll be a lot of announcements in the weeks to come that people are going to be really excited about.
Yeah, and I think...
Was there another question?
Let's see.
Lego,
is this a set to get? Is this a set?
Lego, I don't think they've made any announcements yet. I would guess that they're going to be there. They were just at Star Wars Celebration. They had a more active booth there than they even normally have at San Diego, I think, to some degree. So I think you can count on Lego, and I think they'll have some good stuff.
Yeah, and as far as getting depressed on Saturday, totally feel that.
Yes.
But one of the things, we did try to kind of, as things are winding down and we're starting to hit how the real life stuff start to hit us again. One of the things we like to do is like start planning for next year and taking notes and like, okay, so what went well, what do I need to do differently, and it kind of helps ease the pain of going back to the real world.
Yeah, we're big on keeping note. Now, that was one of the SDCC tips I have saved for next week is, or the week after, I don't remember when it is, but just on taking note of all the expenditures, taking note on what the exclusives that were interesting or the booths, just things to kind of help plan the next year around. The best SDCC hangover cure, I think that planning for the next one, or for us, I know a lot of times it's also planning whatever the next thing is. Like, we're huge Halloween fans, so we start thinking a lot about the Halloween season. But I mean, for the Disney people, there's D23 Expo, there's other conventions, you know, lots of good TV shows coming, etc. But I think it's just, yeah, having those other things. But at the end of the day, I mean, nothing is Comic-Con. I know, you know, for me, like Comic-Con, I mean, I said that all during the pandemic as we would talk about, you know, the thing I missed most during the pandemic was Comic-Con, you know, in terms of like a place or a location. I mean, obviously missed seeing friends or family, but the thing, like the location or the event, it was always Comic-Con. As much as I love theme parks and Halloween and all that, it was always Comic-Con. So for me, nothing is ever kind of compares quite to that, though. All right, so the last of the tips that we had was just in going back, we are going to be having these videos, and so the last of the tips that we had out for this week was a video one, which was going to check out the video that Carmel put together. I mean, I recorded in front, but Carmel did all the back end stuff of the various addresses, the menus, all of those things. You can find that on the YouTube channel, so if you've not checked that out, we encourage you to do so. If you didn't check out the live stream we did earlier today, I'd make a note to try to see that, because Seaport Village, I know at least for me, it had a lot more to offer than I realized that it had there. So that's another video. And then we had this same type of show last week with a variety of different tips and stuff. So there's this will make, I guess, the fourth video that we have up in the series of Comic-Con videos this year. So that's more already than we normally have, I think, in all of June. And we have a lot more planned for this month. So we're kind of going big on video and on podcasts as well this year. So if you're audio only, that's fine as well. But hopefully some of these live things are helpful for that crowd. We're trying to hit as many different crowds for the live people, for the social media only people, the Twitter only people, Facebook only people. So we're trying to hit all of the spots, and we hope that some of these work out for you and are useful to you. So I think with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here for this one. We will be back in San Diego shortly doing another set of videos and talk and all of that, so we can't wait to catch up with you again. Think of any questions you have or topics of things you want us to cover, and you can reach out to us on the social media channels, and we appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much to everybody that's in the chat today and everybody that's saying very kind things as well. We thank you very much. So until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.